Hi, Barbara. Thanks for joining me today. It's so nice to meet you. As a new consultant, I was like, I really want to connect with other people in this profession.
Oh, I'm so excited to meet you. When I saw you on our group talks or some trainings, I just was drawn to you. And now I feel that we found each other as educators. And I love your enthusiasm for what we're doing.
Thank you. You've been such a great connector in helping me know who's who in the zoo and how this business is organized. And you've given me so much hope in the sense that I can discover who I really am in this journey. For those of you watching, I've realized that I have these layers that I've built, whether it was as a teacher sitting crisscross applesauce with little kids or founding schools and having to be very polished and presented, and then working in state leadership and advisement to political officials. I was very polished. Same in corporate, very polished. And now I feel like I get to be real. I get to be the fullest expression of who I am. And I love discovering that woman. I love being able to hold someone's heart and hear their health challenge and being able to bring my science-minded geekiness to it. And it's awkward. I'm trying to figure it out.
Well, and I love that you share that. It's like I get to let my hair down and that you discovered that so early, because as I've seen new, very accomplished people come into our business, such as yourself, maybe they've had, I one person, a couple of people that really come to mind, they were big pharmaceutical reps. So they were used to being at the top of their game, and I'm going to come in and just tear this apart. But like you say, then learning who am I really? Like you're trained to be that in that particular role, and you had certain dialogue to say, or so you could be successful that way. But this is a personal growth business disguised as a company. It really is. We get the best of both worlds. It's so true. We all say that in this industry. And here's the really cool thing: as you grow, your business grows. So you can sort of look at the levels or where you are, and it's like until you've grown into that other level, and even if you have skills from other careers, there's still that personal accomplishment, achievement, like we talked about, limiting beliefs that we have to shed to keep going. And if you're not willing to do that work, this business is hard for you. So I love somebody like yourself who's willing and excited about it.
I think the opportunity that we're sitting on is huge, right? Having gone through my own battle with cancer and learning firsthand that all disease is root cause in malfunctioning cells. And I started to ask, well, if that's true, like I'm meeting all these people with all these health conditions, and as we explore the root cause of our disease, we're all coming to the same discovery. And I'm like, what? Yours is malfunctioning cells too? It felt like I should have paid more attention in high school biology class, right? Like cellular health, mitochondria, all these things.
But they didn't teach us that then. They really didn't.
No. And we live in this body. And I'm teaching my daughter right now to drive. And I'm like, we spend more time learning to drive than we do learning how this body we live in functions and operates.
Yes. In our culture. I think in other cultures, they're more attached to their body. What I've used the analogy as, it's like we pay more attention to our car and our maintenance on our car than we take ourselves to the mechanic. Mm-hmm. Like, oh, something is wrong, like malfunctioning cells. Okay, can you fix it? It's like we've given our power over our body to someone else. And in the 15 minutes, or doctors have told me they have like 7 minutes, they're going to discover and know our lifestyle or know what things are contributing to this malfunctioning body. Or they don't even ask what we're doing or not doing. Yes. And I have to share one thing that just happened to me, because I think we are so relevant now. And you just said that, that we need to be proactive in our health. This is our body. And so I moved to a different town, about an hour and a half away from where I used to be. But I kept going back to my PA that I was dealing with. I liked him because actually he was from Colombia. We talked about nutrition. We talked about other things, and he spent time. And I didn't spend the time up here after moving, finding my medical people. And finally, I thought, I just can't commute that hour and a half. It's not worth it. I've asked around. I want to change. So I missed like an appointment, or I had a teleappointment. I get a certified letter in the mail from Conviva because they're buying out all these practices. It had been an independent. I was in Jupiter Medical Center, and Jupiter is very sophisticated, wealthy, has incredible medical resources, but Conviva's buying out all these practices. I had to sign, and I didn't realize I could have not signed for it, a certified letter telling me that I was at risk and not taking care of my body. And I went livid. I'm on no prescriptions. What kind of risk am I in that I am not being compliant to them?
So interesting you say that, because one of the things I learned.
Finish the story for 1 minute. And I called them and I asked for them. I was livid. And I said, how dare you? And she said, well, we're in charge of managing your health. And I said, no, you're not. I'm in charge of managing my health. I said, you don't know if I've gone to acupuncture, massage, sound healings, what other protocols and other things that I'm doing in my lifestyle to detox and taking these activation products. You have no clue what other things. I'm in charge. And finally, at the end of our conversation, and I have to sign off, because what is that? That's for their risk assessments.
Yes.
I was floored. Sorry, that just happened.
One of the things I learned was doctors are bound to a standard of care. And that quote, standard of care, is often diagnose and prescribe. And so once I saw the cycle and the veil had lifted, I went, I don't actually want to be on this hamster wheel anymore. Right? To your point. And the best advice I got during my cancer journey, luckily, came very early on. One of my favorite students, her mom had called me saying, you know, I saw your post on Facebook. And I thought, oh my gosh, my diagnosis, for those of you who I haven't met yet, came 2 days after having my role downsized and being notified I had 2 weeks to my employment ended, and 5 months after tripling my mortgage and moving from the city we'd called home for 20 years to the country, putting a horse in the yard for my daughter, a Porsche in the garage, because that's the kind of horse I ride, and this beautiful 5,800 square foot home that I'm now going, oh my gosh, how am I going to afford this? Your lifestyle tends to grow with your career and income. And so people often think, oh, they have money. Well, oh, they have money means their bills are bigger, right? We're all living in the same threshold and the same budgetary constraints. And so it was a very, very difficult season. And she said to me words I will never forget, and words that I want everyone I know to know: be your own health advocate.
Yes.
You're the only one that lives in your body. So I was going to all these different doctors trying to put together the pieces of my health puzzle. They're giving me the best guidance that they could, but they don't live in my body. They don't know what it feels like when I wake up. They don't know what it feels like when I go to bed. They don't know. And as much as we know about the body and the brilliance of Western medicine, we don't really know that much. Right?
And one thing for chronic illness. If I'm having an emergency, if I'm in a car accident, if I fall off a horse, I want Western medicine, but we are not, we have so much chronic disease, and we are not the best stewards of chronic situations. And I think a lot of doctors do mean well. They haven't been trained in nutrition. And so, not knowing how, and are things psychosomatic, or for a long time that was a stigma. But when I started looking at, okay, wait a minute, there's more prescriptions, but we're getting sicker and sicker and sicker. When you look at the numbers, something is wrong here.
Yes.
We're this
I started to recognize that. So let's talk about the elephant in the oncology room. Between 2000 and 2021, cancer diagnoses rose 36%. During that same time, the government invested $150 billion in cancer research. Now, if I was a CEO of a business and I had to report that, like the problem we solve is growing. The amount of money we're spending on it is also growing. You would be fired, right? You would not be employed anymore. And so I took the best of the West. I used Western medicine because it was a fast growing, highly aggressive tumor. I just,
and you had, and what you left out that you shared with me when you talked about your income, I'm sorry for interrupting you, was that your insurance was going to end.
Yes.
That was the thing. So you had to make, like you said, it was an aggressive, I mean, I just learned this last night from you, and it just impacted me so much.
Yeah.
And that, so you had to make, the doctors were making fast decisions because of the medical situation. And you were like, I've got to do as much as I can before my insurance runs out, because COVID takes time to kick in.
Yes.
And here you were in this situation of high stress 2 days before being downsized. And I've been downsized before. And that's part of my story of wanting to be in this industry and build something that no one can take away from me.
Yes.
And not be beholden and vulnerable. And then facing these decisions unbeknownst to you a couple of days later as a single mom.
And I was told it would take 6 to 12 weeks for Cobra to take effect. And my doctor's like, you'll be dead by then. We have to get this done. And I was so grateful. The woman who ran billing on her team was like an extension of me. She would get up early and make calls. I mean, it was to watch the divine orchestrate and work through people's hearts. It gave me hope for humanity. I have the like Holy Spirit goosebumpy chills all over. It was the most incredible love I've ever experienced, to see people just pouring into me and advocating for me and helping me during that season. It was, you know, hands down the most challenging of times that I've ever been through, which I've been abandoned and pregnant and drove my baby girl home from the hospital by myself. So that was prior to cancer the most challenging. Then this comes along, right? And I think the hardest part really is the after effect. No one really prepares you for that, and no one's there anymore, right? So now here I am 2.5 years later, battling a lot of side effects. And I always think I got off easy. I changed my prognosis, right? I was supposed to have 3 to 4 months radiation, full-blown chemotherapy, reconstructive surgery. I took the least intrusive approach and paired it with biobehavioral health. And then I really focused on nutrigenomics, how your food affects the expression of your genes, and epigenetics, and that those switches can be flipped on and off. So I changed my whole prognosis with food and biobehavioral health practices like Qigong and sound healing and meditation and somatic breathing, right? I had a whole spreadsheet of all the crazy things I was trying and documenting in my—
Not trying, that you were doing.
Right. Well, I was experimenting with them, right? I thought like a scientist.
Okay.
I was like, I'm going to make a hypothesis. This will work for me.
Okay. Wow.
Because people who believe in their treatment, that treatment works. What you receive is based on what you believe. And so I had to really root into those beliefs. And if I believed in it, I would hypothesize it might work. And then I would document, how did that make me feel? How did it impact my mood? How did it impact the quality of my sleep and the duration of that sleep? How did it impact my ability to feel motivated to exercise? Right. And so I really was on fire. My body became fit. I discovered I had really defined abs. It was an incredible journey. Then I did have to do 4 weeks of radiation. They said everyone has to do this. And then don't think, just take the pill. And I'm thinking to myself, I'm a thinking being. I thought all of these things and documented their evidence of success. And now here I am, like being told, just take this pill. Well, I hired another medical team who explained that I had an estrogen-fed cancer. And so they wanted me to take that pill to shut down this production. And so I just blindly, I was so afraid, in all honesty, of cancer's return, because this was the most aggressive type you can have. It's Ki-67, which is a little protein in the cell that describes its growth. On a scale of 0 to 20 was a 51. So I already knew, like, this could take me down. And if worst case, what my medical team had said, this can come back and affect other areas of your body. It can be blood, can be bone, can be other organs. So I was in this state of real constant paranoia, and I still get there every once in a while. If I'm going to have a sweet treat, if I'm out to eat, anytime I look at the grocery store and I go, 73% of things in here are processed. They can sit on a shelf for a year. They probably don't belong in your body. But for some wacko reason, I want to eat them.
Well, did you know that they are allowed, so people trust the FDA so much, and that they're allowed to put craving factors into the food. So we beat ourselves up and we shame ourselves. And then I had this aha moment about years ago with Lay's potato chips that you can't eat one. Well, I thought that was, oh yeah, we do. I know they're so good.
Yes, and Pringles, once you pop, you can't stop, right? Like they're even programming us.
Because I've been doing this deep dive and learning more about the food industry and the timeline, and the cigarette companies purchase the food companies, so they understand addiction.
And if you look at the industries that are having the greatest impact on our health, it's the food industry, the medical industry, and big pharma. I've started to form some disassociations with those organizations for that reason, which is why, as we wrap up today, I want to share a little bit about the decision of coming to LifeVantage.
I wanted to ask you, how did you find it? And
I love that.
I love that you just shared how much you documented. Look at your data that you have. I don't think I've met another person, they may have tried all those things, but that you pursued it to really look at your body. Is this making me feel better, or is it hurting me? Am I sleeping better? What is the quality of my sleep? I mean, that data that you have, and I think you could do a whole webinar with people, maybe in this space that you are, of how to evaluate and look at your body, and have maybe worksheets or something, because everyone doesn't know how to do that. That just came to me right now, because that's
so beautiful, because I've been feeling a little lost in like my career and how to put together all the pieces of this, and taking my high performance leadership coaching and my background in education, and now my newfound passion for food and nutrigenomics and epigenetic health and things that it sounds really smart, nutrigenomics and epigenetics. All it means is everything you eat has an effect on the expression of yourself.
Because it's God's pharmacy. God put everything on this earth for us and for our bodies. And when our bodies do not recognize all these synthetic things, they don't know how to process it. I mean,
it's just disharmony, right? It's like our bodies are doing this instead of, woo. Now when I eat, I'm like metabolic harmony, metabolic harmony.
We're supposed to eat for fuel, but in our modern society, we've lost that. And it's interesting how this conversation has gone, but it's been a smooth transition into things. And we are educators. So I think having the educational background that you have, because we aren't, okay, take this and you're going to lose 50 pounds. Like,
well, and you think about educators, what do? We put in a behavioral intervention and we document its effectiveness, right?
And so we're educators.
I did that as an educator. I did it as a research professor. And so I was like, this is just a research experiment. We've all been the 3rd, 4th, and 5th grader who did a science fair project. Welcome to your science fair project, right?
That would be a fun way to put that. And because we do need to educate people on these products and their bodies. And it's just amazing to me, even doctors. I have customers that are even doctors. And I'm like, how can you not look at the science of this? Okay, but I'm not feeling this. And that doctor that I'm thinking of is even a cancer survivor. But we don't feel cholesterol. We don't feel a lot of our body processes. So the disconnection with understanding how our body works requires, I think, a bit of education on our part.
Absolutely. And when you said cancer survivor, I went, oh, recurrence is real, people. Yes. Write it down. Recurrence is real. You can be proactive and preventative of this. I meet people. I met this woman who was like, I'm a 5-time survivor. I wanted to shake her. I was like, honey, how many repetitions do you need to learn? This is not an accident. This is happening. 90 to 95% of disease is diet and lifestyle. I had to ask myself, I do not have a family history of cancer. So then we did the genetic tests. I don't have the genes. So this is all about epigenetics, the turning on and off of those switches in the body. Cancer cells, one of my medical professionals told me, don't give these cells too much credit. They are the dumbest of all cells. They're the only cells dumb enough to take out their host. And that disempowered them, right? So when I say cancer, I'm not afraid of it. I now know cancer is the dumbest of all organisms. It's the only organism dumb enough to take out its host that keeps it alive.
Wow,
right?
that is so profound.
And so let's talk about malfunctioning cells. Let's talk about what's causing these cells to malfunction. It's oxidative stress. How do you know you have oxidative stress, right? My biggest fear was like, I can't see these cells. I don't know what they're doing. Well, guess what? I can see and feel inflammation. That's my body's signal. That's my body's messenger. The inflammation, and I started to weigh myself, not from a place of shame, but to say, how effective was my nutrition the day before? If my scale went up over a pound or two, which it typically did after indulging in some of my formerly favorite foods, I caused a lot of inflammation in my body. No shame, just an analysis,
awareness.
Of what am I eating? And how is it affecting the inflammation I'm feeling? Well, then when I discovered that there were 5 simple ingredients that when combined synergistically, they could reduce oxidative stress in my body by 40% within 30 days, I went, sign me up. By 70% within a few months, sign me up. I have a cellular condition and I live a high stress life. I'm on this rock rotating planet Earth and everybody here is living in a state of stress. And I went, I need to fix that. I can do that. I can activate the generation of my mitochondria through the NRF1 pathway. And then just like turmeric and black pepper work magic together, I add NAD and I increase the effectiveness of those things by 1800%. So for me, when I saw that as a math science person, I went, I am in like Flynn. I paired that with my brain food. For those of you who love geeking out, this is a prefrontal cortex drink. For those of you who are like, I need the layman's version, call it brain food, right?
Prefrontal cortex drink. Oh, I love that. And I drink it out of the same bottle.
Some of you are going to hate me watching this. Coffee, 8-ounce cup of black coffee, which I don't know about you, but I like a 16 to 30 ounce. And I like to load that with some sugary creamer. So I was more like a splash of coffee with my cream kind of girl. Coffee, so we know alcohol will jack your system for 72 hours, right? It'll fully disrupt and disharmonize the body. My favorite beverage is a type 1 carcinogen called red wine. So I had to get facts. Let's get fact from fiction, right? So that was fact 1. The next fact that I had was this coffee habit I had. Coffee will jack your brain, according to MRI studies, for 3 weeks. That's your frontal lobe is where executive functioning occurs. This is where you make decisions. This is where your mood regulates. Anyone else raising a teenager, you need to have yourself grounded because their selves are like this, right? And I'm like, nothing grounds me like this drink. My teen can go flying off the handle. Just the other day it happened. And I was like, I'm calm, cool, and collected. Cheers.
I know. It's, we get, what I find frustrating is that we get lumped into other, like, oh, this is an energy drink or that's a vitality drink. This is different. And being an educator, one of my passions is to save our children. The collateral damage of so much is our children. And so this has such huge effects because we've seen neuroscientists doing brain mapping.
Yes.
This isn't woo-woo or just speculation. And when we do our studies, we do it on the whole product. We are not pulling, many companies pull from one ingredient, but we have some, you don't even know if it's a active ingredient of that.
Right. Or how much they just sprinkle in so they could say they use
active. It might not even be, but we do the whole thing. And I just, it's just phenomenal. The changes that I've seen, the lives turned around.
One thing I want to say about that related to your passion and lives turning around. My daughter is a dyslexic neurodivergent child. I should actually, let me reframe that. She is a child who experiences neurodivergent, dyslexic experience tendencies, right? We have to put the child first.
Right. I love that. Thank
The
you.
naming and the labels, right? You'll notice I'm still correcting myself because we've been conditioned to think in certain ways, right? And so I'm like, no, she's a child first. My child experiences these things that have been labeled dyslexia, these things that have been labeled other things, right? And I saw that brain mapping study. And in that study, they also shared that in addition to helping with focus and concentration, it helps athletes stay safe. And I went, my daughter is a jumper. She is on 1,000-pound animal jumping rails, right? I definitely, anyone raising athletes needs to focus on focus and concentration because it's related to safety.
Interesting.
That got me. And Barbara, you want to know the coolest thing? This is one of less than 40 products that's approved by collegiate and professional athletes.
I know, because it
That's
has
how good this stuff is, right? Like
we have the banned substance credit certification. So Olympians, we have Olympians on these products.
Yes. And the best part that I saw in my daughter, so she's been going to school. I've had it described as a place without oxygen for 8 hours a day, right? She goes in and she's told she's not enough. She can't keep up with the assignment factory that they've got going on in that building. She can't do things fast enough. She can't spend, take notes at the ad nauseum rate that the district's requiring teachers to then pound these PowerPoints into our children. And it's like, she's caught in this system. And it's
overwhelmed
in part because I'm watching her now go from this bright genius light to just dimmer and dimmer and dimmer, to the point we're having conversations of suicide. We're having conversations of cutting, and I'm having them with her friends too. And I look at the detriment that this system has done to our children's self-esteem. And
so my background, I also studied gifted children, and I was telling you about my 15-year-old daughter.
Yes,
exactly. The system, they start off, that's why my background's early childhood education, because they're open, they are fresh until they get dampened down by teachers, coaches, parents, a friend's parents, whatever, and
they collect the messages of, like, for her, where are you going to go to college?
And my daughter was at a unique time. My daughter was very different, a unique child, and brilliant, but avant-garde, and trying to keep in that system. Exactly. So I totally get it.
What's amazing though, Barbara, this and NRF2, I put her on those after seeing the brain mapping study. For the first time, she has hope in her future again. For the first time, I'm talking in 4 years of, it started kind of like in middle school. And unfortunately, that was also COVID for her. So 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th grade now, right? And you do the math, you go back 4 years, we were in the pandemic. And so it's like,
and that had a huge impact on
huge, right? We underestimate what our kids have been through. To know that we can give them a mood enhancing drink that's good for their brain, that helps regulate their emotions. I love the fact, and I wasn't actually going to start her on this. I was using this as part of my own recurrence routine. And I was like, we're at the barn one day and she was super thirsty and she takes a drink of my drink. This is really good. And now she's stealing my Axio. And I'm like, why are you stealing my drink? I'm going to get you some. So now you open the pantry, it's like a whole shelf of Axio.
All different flavors.
Creating the environment for her to choose something that's,
oh my God, that story is so
for her mood.
I have sometimes we call it our happy juice, because it does affect that frontal cortex too.
Yeah.
Think about your dopamine, serotonin, and your gut. So it's all created in the gut. And so that factor is saving lives. And okay, so let me preface this with your story. So look what this child has been through. So as you said, she has these situations, which every child comes in. When my daughter was born, as a toddler even, there were behavioral situations that I couldn't find patterns for, that it impacted our family, etc. And back in that day, there wasn't that much information. And my background was early childhood education. But anyway, so then her mom gets sick. So she goes through COVID. Her mom is sick. She's thrown into that whole situation. And then we need to move. So look what
Mhm.
she was faced with, all of that.
Yeah, gosh, the
So
heaviness of
all
what
the
she,
heaviness of that, and that, and like you say, reoccurrence. And maybe
and
we're
I think
not
this
even
is
going to
real for
talk
all parents. What am I worried about? I'm not worried about what she's been through. I was just let go of my job. I'm worried about
right,
affording
putting
her
food
home,
on the table.
affording food, helping her build her horse career, which ain't cheap, right? And I'm like, oh my gosh. So I'm over here looking at all these things, and I think all of our kids are crying out right now. Take your eye off of the money and put it onto me, please.
And that's why my business is called Wellness Matters, You Matter, because my child and each of us, we put our health aside. We put in, and especially in all of these stressful times, if people are being laid off, or even from AI, or for the just so many organizations have been downsized, and so we just put ourselves aside, where our health is the most important thing, and it's impacted by how we handle all of those situations. And I just want to put something that I'm working on, because you just hit upon it, is that I went through a high conflict divorce. And so that level of stress, and I didn't understand at that time, I'm putting my child first. We're worried about all of that, and keeping my job and all of that kind of stuff. And it's then all that trauma is stuffed, and it's going to come out like whack-a-mole later. And so I have a course for women going through divorce with children, because my goal is to save our children. I've been a speaker and author. As I said, I'm parental alienation, and I have lost a child. And I believe that's the root cause of her death. And so going through divorce with children, to help, not a deep dive. When you're going through a divorce or a separation, you cannot dive deep into all of those things. But things I wished I knew for self-care, to pay attention to my child, because they're picking up all of this random stuff and putting it together. Who knows how? These random facts that they hear from this person or this person.
Or even worse, on their phone.
And they're not going to verbalize that. So to help women with children go through that time and help mitigate the trauma, so that they're navigating that in a more healthy way, because the decision making that you have, all of that is so important at that pivotal time in your life. And that
you were so strong, Barbara. I love you've taken this really challenging experience and you've turned it into a way to heal for you and to heal for others. That's something that resonates in my heart, because the day of my diagnosis happened to be the day before my annual exam. And so the nurse who delivered the news to me said, your doctor can explain more tomorrow. And when I walked in, I was so grateful. My doctor's from Korea. So she created a medical practice in Korea, knew best of Eastern medicine, had created, and had her Western license as well.
I love that, the marriage of the two.
Oh, it was beautiful. And she's a woman of God. So the first thing she did was pray with me. And then she said, I want you to know you're going to make it through this. And for anyone listening, whatever season this finds you in, there is divine that's brought us together. Barbara and I felt it, and you will get through this moment. And she said, my nurse came back today from the same thing you've been diagnosed with. And she said, I know I went through that HE double hockey stick, she used the real word, to help someone. And in that moment, I went, maybe I'm going through this to help someone too. Fast forward 3 weeks, I was in a real estate investing course on a Saturday. I almost skipped it because I was in a nightmare of flurry with my health. But I was bringing my daughter to that to teach her about building wealth, because we come from poor roots. And so I wanted her to continue to build and to be able to stand on the legacy that my mom tried to build and that her mom tried to build, and that we're growing together as women. We stand on the shoulders of giants, so many before us, and to not take that for granted, right? It was a privilege to own 5 acres in America on American soil without a man on my banknote. That was illegal less than 100 years ago, right? And so I'm very intentional about the generational wisdom we're passing to our children. And we're in this real estate investment thing, and my daughter doesn't like to sit front row. So front row table, she says, no way, Mom. So we sit in the second table, and I'm watching this woman with silver hair, and her little spiral notebook and number 2 pencil, right? Where the rest of us are on our iPads. And I said to her at break, I said, I just want you to know I admire you so much. I hope to be you someday. Now, meanwhile, I'm knowing I might die, right? And I'm watching her and she's giving me hope. And I say that because live your life like someone's watching. You never know the hope that you're bringing someone. And the very next day, it was a 2-day weekend training. She brought me this beautiful quilt, tiny. It was like a little thing that you'd put like on a coffee table. And it said, perhaps this is the moment for which you were created. Esther 4:14. And Barbara, you do that. You use this moment of insane amounts of challenge, insane amounts of trauma, and you use that to help others. And I really believe that's the earth is our soul's biggest classroom, right? Our soul is brave enough to say, yes, I'm going to come into a human body and I'm going to learn the hardest lessons, the biggest lessons of growth, and that these lessons of growth you're using to inspire growth in others. And that
it's healing for me. Some people put the covers over their head, but I have to do something with it and make it matter that my daughter's life mattered.
Yes.
And in that spiritual realm of dealing with that, because having this kind of child in a divorce situation with my former husband was an accounting professor, so PhD, black and white. My daughter was avant-garde gray all the way.
She was a rainbow or indigo child.
Yes, I kept looking at indigo child. She wasn't even, I think she was more than an indigo child, but I had this spiritual download that she came here to do what she was meant to do. Yes. And she passed me a baton. Now I had to heal and I had to go through grief. I couldn't deal with it until, I could speak without crying. And sometimes I still,
I was just admiring that you're able to get through your story with so much
20 years, yeah. But still, and right now it's a really difficult time because I have a lot of anniversaries in a 5-week period, and her death date is coming up. But I had this just knowing sense of she chose to come here. I was on that path of, because when you have difficult situations, bringing you to a different spiritual level was, I just looked at things differently of why things are happening or what is my role here to do. And I just had this huge knowingness is, it was hard for her to be human. She was frustrated in her limitations, like what you were sharing with your daughter. You can probably hear the change in my voice, And so I tried to keep everything as free form as possible. For instance, I'll give one thing that, and when I was a teacher, I didn't have a desk. I had everything out for the students. I'm one of those kind of teachers. And
me too.
My glass doors in my kitchen, we had an older home that we were redoing. And I gave each daughter a pane of glass. So when it was Thanksgiving, you just paint your picture on the sliding glass door. Now it's Easter. Let's wash that off, And I mean, just to give them canvases to think big. Like we want our children to expand, like you just shared. And so I know, so I felt like, for me, it's healing for me. And I need to have a purpose with it. I didn't go through this for nothing.
Yes. In my book, I'm releasing my very first book in the upcoming weeks, and it's called Shift Happens. And it really is like, I look at our lives, and this is like the stories of the shift and the discoveries that we make amidst those shifts. And for me, the spiritual awakening was a big part of that, right? And just like you're saying, seeing through a whole different perspective and paradigm, it invites you to question and to get in the mire of, why did this happen? What am I supposed to be learning here? And to really tune into that intuition and inner knowing. I didn't know how to do that. I was told as a scholar, you've looked outside of yourself for so long, you've lost it. But I was told I had this psychic intuition, and I was like, I didn't even believe in that stuff. And then I thought, you know what if I do? What if there is an inner knowing? What if a lot of this is really all about coming home and about reactivating those cells so that we can remember? Like, I feel like that's a part of my journey, is to reactivate my body's divine design and to feel the fullest expression of that. And I'm so excited that LifeVantage gives me a connection to a community of people like you, right? I haven't ever had this at work before.
No. In fact, you have to hide a lot of your beliefs or different things oftentimes. And so I'm so grateful too that we met. We just sort of clicked. I mean, we didn't.
For those of you who get to watch this, we literally divinely met yesterday, and we went, we should record our 1 minute story. This is our attempt at a minute, my friends.
And so we're discovering each other.
Elevator pitch.
We're discovering each other, but yeah, so look at the synergy of that. And that's one thing I absolutely love about this industry is you find you're able to be open, more open and true. And the relationships that I have found are such deep relationships than other corporate relationships. I had friends and acquaintances, but when we're talking about health and we see how we're changing people's lives or how people open up to us, because this is get down and dirty. And, you know, that the beauty that we have and the fulfillment of either financial, here you have with this, your financial background too, you're not going to take something like this lightly. You're taking it serious as a business. We see our leadership and the kinds of income that they have made. And so right now people need this. And
there's no ceiling, right? Like I look at corporate, I had to wait until they said you have budget to hire headcount. And that day doesn't come for like 3 dang years. You're doing the job with a team of 1, then 2, then 3, then 4, and they keep promising later. Later never comes. Your promotion is on the line, right? You're waiting for your performance review to get that promotion. It's got to happen in a cycle. You can only get promoted at this time of the year. And only if you
move into another position if that person leaves or retires. Right. And all these people are vying for that one position. And anyone can be the top leader that they want. Yes. There's no.
Well, so once I got into that, that was big. And then I went, oh, but it's a pyramid. And I'm like, wait a minute, honey, you've always been in a pyramid. Your community is a pyramid, right? The mayor's at the top of it, and then the governor, and then, you know, like it all rolls up into a pyramid.
Your church.
Yes, your church is a pyramid. Your school is a pyramid. Being a student is a pyramid. Being the professor is a pyramid. Being in corporate, definite pyramid. So I was like, you know what? At least in this pyramid, I'm in a happy bubble. Maybe it's more of a bubble.
It's an upside down pyramid because everyone can get to the top. It's up to you. Woo! Everyone. And like you say, and also there's no discrimination. I've seen a UPS driver go ahead of a doctor. There's no cap to a woman or person of color or it's up to you, your skills and what you bring.
Yes. Which for those of us who have worked their way to a rank, one frustration I feel is I got to start at the bottom again, right? If I went into corporate, I wouldn't be starting at the bottom, but I would have that glass ceiling. I would have that promotion cycle, and I would have a cap on what my role, the salary band could be, right? The other thing that's interesting that I saw happening in corporate after a career in education and then government and politics, I wasn't privy to what happens in corporate HR firms. And they do a job skills analysis, and there's a review of you have these skills and those skills have a market worth of this range. In network marketing, you don't have to have the skills that pay the bills to work your way up to that range. You literally get to discover the best of yourself, share wholeheartedly in a way that's authentic to you, and live in the beauty of the awkwardness of that, right? That it's hard to discover who you are when someone else has told you who to be your whole life. And that's a fun journey, right? I loved, you said, this is a personal growth opportunity disguised as a business. And it really is. This is the best moment for me because I'm getting to have a discovery moment of the fullest expression of who I am.
And without it being in a box of what these little skills you can be. And also it takes one person. I've seen someone, several people, and they have signed up some dynamite person and they never really worked the business. They were content to get a few $1,000s a month and take a vacation once a month and not build a team, even though the person was like, let me show you how to build a team. You could make
yes.
And but not just that, it's also so much of us, we feel the value of, we need to share these products with people because it's impacting their health. So there's I've been in, and then we're going to have to wrap this up because I have an appointment, but I've been in like a line in the grocery store, and I heard these people behind me, and the woman had medical concerns, just maybe not as your situation. She's sharing with friends, I just found out from the doctor, blah, blah, blah. And then I've gone home and I thought, oh my God, I didn't share this with them, but I don't know them. I can't, but I couldn't sleep. I was so upset that, what if this could have helped them? And so that helped me get over my ego. It's like, so now if I hear something like that, I say, I can't help it over here. I mean, they're talking loud, they're in a public place.
Yes.
I can't help it over here. I might have something that can help you. Would you like to know more? And then give me your number or your email or something, and I can share some other information with you. I ask permission, but my conscience is clear because I don't want regrets. Regrets really play on our heart. And when you're in a space and you hear enough stories just like yours, where lives are being saved. I mean, our products didn't necessarily save your life. You saved your life with all your research and the blend of Eastern and Western medicine. And then I'm going to end with this. So when I first heard about this business, I was in Jacksonville, and I heard about it, and the news anchor in Jacksonville for 30 years, petite woman, runs marathons, was a 3-time breast cancer survivor. Mayo Clinic is in Jacksonville. She's the news anchor. She has the utmost care, the total, all the oncologists, whatever. And she's like, okay, I watch everything I eat. She goes, but I am a type A person. I'm in the murder mayhem business. I mean, I'm like a quadruple A. But she says, what else can I do? So when the third time came back, she actually saw the ABC primetime investigative report live on Sunday night TV and was like, where can I get this? She started meditating. She started getting IV for glutathione because glutathione is very low in cancer patients. And the molecules are too big. You need to be making those.
Remind me which of our products is the big glutathione.
NRF2. After about 120 days, it increases it by 300%. And ADHD and autistic children are very low in glutathione as well. It's our magic immune. It's our most important immune. I call it the grand poobah of our immune system. And she started meditating and having acupuncture. So she was doing Western medicine and started that. But then she started on, and we only had NRF2 activation at that point. And it was in the retail stores, if you know that story.
Then
it disappeared off the shelf, and then someone shared it with her, and she was like, oh my gosh, I've been looking all over for this. And so I had signed up under her, and she's not had a reoccurrence. She's now the mayor of Jacksonville. But she has a marathon.
Yay, that's going to be my story. I cannot wait to see my blood work after this.
You have such a story. Yes.
And I love data, right? So I'm like, I have my blood work over the past 2 years because I went, you know what? I can go in the squishing machine and just pray. But I'm a businesswoman. So I was like, that's a lagging indicator. You don't want to wait until COVID's shutting down your business to know, like COVID accelerated the inevitable. Businesses that were on the path to shutting down, shut down faster. Businesses that were on the path to growth grew faster, right? LifeVantage is a fast growth company. That's part of why I said yes. Publicly traded on the NASDAQ, debt-free, all those things that made a lot of sense.
Good leadership.
As this woman in cancer, I thought, what are the leading indicators to this disease? It turns out you can measure them in your blood. It ain't cheap. I pay $918, every 6 months for my panels to be done. But again, that's a flawed thought that insurance is going to save my health.
Yeah.
No, I am going to save my health.
Yes. Yes.
I think that's a wrap.
It's been so spontaneous, authentic, so rich. And I just thank you so much for this conversation in so many different ways that we hit upon. Yes. I think it is so important on every aspect of our life. And I look forward to getting to know you better and more. And let's partner with each other. And
absolutely.
Thank
Well,
you.
I will see you tomorrow.
Yes.
All right. Take care. Have a good time at your appointment.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Okay.